everyone. Welcome. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Jenny Fielding. I'm the founder of a venture fund called Everywhere Ventures. We believe that innovation is everywhere, and we want to be where founders are. So we're a pre-seed fund investing across 3 verticals: money, health, and work. So I'm very excited, to be here today with the Clue team to tell us more about the intersection of longevity and women's health, a space that we invest heavily in. So welcome, ladies. So we'll just start with some quick intros. So Audrey, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Well, yes, we are going to talk about longevity in a way, but for those of you who saw the title of this talk and were like, yes, we're going to talk about immortality, that's not what we're going to talk about. We're actually going to talk about longevity and vitality as it pertains to, women's health and reproductive health, which is really interesting, I promise you. So please, stay for this, even though it's a little bit of a bait and switch, otherwise known as a reframe. So I'll introduce myself now. I'm Audrey Sang. I'm one of the co-CEOs at Clue. There are 2 of us, and I know that's rare, but it's also cool. So I joined Clue about 5 years ago to lead their product team. Clue, we are a companion for reproductive health. That means that we are with women and people with cycles throughout their entire health journey, from first period all the way to last period. It was started about 10 years ago, and when I stepped in to take on the product team, it was really about, how do we grow? How do we go to the next chapter? How do we figure out how to monetize? How do we figure out how to evolve our product to even better serve the needs of our users? My background is in consumer tech. I'm originally from San Francisco, and Clue attracted me to come to Berlin about 5 years ago. Before this, I was leading teams at Pinterest, Hotel Tonight, First PM at Yelp, and I was sitting there, why did I come to Clue aside from, being just really taken by Ida, one of our co-founders? It was really fundamentally looking at the reproductive health experience. I mean, it is so underserved. My personal experience, I see nods in the audience. Yeah, my personal experience, everything from migraines to questions around fertility, to, staring down perimenopause. Those are all, they're common experiences, first of all, very common. And they're also fundamentally just unsupported, underserved. Oftentimes we hear from our users, it's just not taken seriously. And I was looking at, consumer tech, traditionally fantastic at getting people to spend lots of time, lots of money, probably on things that are not necessarily great for their health, well-being. And I was like, how can we use all of that to actually empower women and people with cycles to live a full and healthy life in tune with everything that's going on in this body of ours. 2 years ago, we stepped up as co-CEOs, and at this point, I pass over to my partner in crime here, because there's a reason there's 2 of us as we think about the evolution of Clue over the years.
So I'm Carrie. I'm the other half of the co-CEO-ship. And I'm a lawyer by background, which is not that typical for the CEO of a tech company. The way I think about how we work together is Audrey has this incredibly science-y, software-y Silicon Valley. All the stuff you expect to see here at TOA. I'm a regulatory lawyer. That means I'm trained to think about where are we going and why, and what standards do we need to adhere to on the way. And I think, from a personal perspective, I have 2 daughters. I had one in the UK, I had one here in Berlin. And that was kind of the moment where I was like, why was this reproductive journey so different? Surely this is a pretty common experience. I'm the same person. I'm not that much older, and yet I'm getting different information. I'm getting a different healthcare journey. People are telling me that different things are going to kill me and harm my baby. And
don't have a baby in the U.S.
I'm not planning to.
Absolutely shocking.
I am definitely not planning to. So that was kind of my moment of awakening to how underserved this reproductive experience is. And as we were talking about the title of this talk, longevity feels like a bit of a straw man to me. Like it feels like a bit of a straw aging male tech bro, to be honest. It's like, how do we live longer? Well, how do we live better? And if we're women in this body, with this biology, how do we make this biology count for us? How do we make this fundamental experience that we all have and that has been invisible for so long, for all kinds of cultural reasons, how do we make it part of how we live a healthy and empowered life? So that's kind of my story. As a lawyer, why is it super interesting to work in a tech company? Well, because regulatory law is always interesting when innovation outpaces the categories that regulators have made. Right? Regulators think about consumer tech, which they basically don't care very much about. They don't even, if you're in the US, they don't even care about your data. If you're in Germany, they do, luckily. But when it comes to software helping you with your health decisions, that's a medical device. That should be treated like a medical device. That shouldn't be less regulated than your kid's Playmobil. And that's why at Clue, our whole sort of thesis is, look, we can bring medtech to women around the world at scale very, very easily from a marginal cost perspective, and we should be doing it to a standard that people can rely on. So our partnership is all about that.
And that matches their experience. Because let's look at the other side of it too. Medicine doesn't always fit the women's health experience. So much of women's health, let's say everything from getting your first period to perimenopause, is not actually, let's say, reimbursable. It's not treatable. If you go to talk to your doctor about it, they'll probably tell you just deal with it, or maybe it's PMS. So it's actually figuring out how we bridge all of the science and efficacy that Carrie was mentioning with something that actually matches the experience and the needs of the people that we build it for.
So I'd love to talk about this term femtech. When it came to be, I heard that your co-founder, Ida, actually came up with the term, which was pretty shocking to me in 2016, but also so cool, because we've been gradually kind of hearing more and more about femtech. So what fits into that category? How do you define it? And do you resonate with that term personally?
Okay, so fem is for female, and tech is for technology. I guess if you look at just those two words, it's basically technology built for half the world's population. And do I resonate with it? Yes, because when Ida coined this term, literally there was nothing happening. And the shocking part about it being in 2016 is that's not that long ago that there really wasn't anything happening in this space, no investment in this space, no innovation in this space. So putting a name to it honestly allowed us to talk about it at conferences like this, to say, hey, this is what it is when we're trying to go and pitch a new idea. It was important, but the part that probably doesn't resonate with me anymore is that it's often viewed as a niche thing. Like femtech, female technology for females, that's literally technology for half the world's population.
Pretty amazing. We're big investors in femtech, women's health. I was pretty shocked when I figured out that in the US, women weren't included in clinical trials by law until the 90s. So that was pretty shocking. So it's exciting to see all new technologies geared towards women's health. And we're excited to be part of that. Talking about technology, how do you guys talk us a little bit through the product and how you integrate technologies into that, right? And so tell us just more, what you actually do and what's the tech part.
Okay. So Clue started as a period tracker, and a lot of people do ask us, well, why would I need to track my period? And well, first of all, it's nice to know when the next one is coming, very simply. But second of all, your period, it's effectively your fifth vital sign. I say you. For those of you with a period, it's your 5th vital sign. You know, the first question that your doctor will ask you is, when was your last period? The next question they'll ask you is, how regular is it? Or how irregular is it? Or what might you be experiencing? When Clue started as a period tracker, yes, we were there to help people understand when their next one is coming, but also to observe what's going on in their body so that if and when they might need it, like let's say something changes, there's high irregularities, you're experiencing a lot of pain, you can go and actually take that to a healthcare provider and say, hey, this is what's going on. Can you help me? You know, I'm not crazy, please take me seriously. That's where it started. And since then, you know, Clue has grown to over 10 million monthly active users in the app, which who've been tracking for years. What you can do with that data, I think that's where technology comes in, right? What you can do with that data is well, help people understand things that they may not be able to perceive themselves. So some things that we can do, for example, are we can help you understand when you might be ovulating, or when your fertile window, your actual fertile window, might be buffered by statistics and buffered by science. But those are some of the things that we can give you insights into, along with, you know, what might you be expecting at this part of your cycle, or what might you be expecting at this part of your health journey.
And if I can add to that, so I think there's been a lot of excitement about wearables and new fancy ways to capture data automatically, biomarkers automatically. And that's fantastic. We're super excited about that too. This is all data that can be integrated on our platform and can help people surface things they want to understand. But I think something specifically about female health, and everyone here will resonate with this who has a cycle, is that so much of that experience is self-observed, right? So I go to my doctor 6 months pregnant, and they're like, you say you're exhausted, you say you're in pain, how exhausted are you compared to 5 weeks ago versus 10 weeks ago? And I'm like, I don't know, I have a toddler, I have no idea, right? The only way that I could possibly know is if I tracked. And nobody else can tell me. The doctor can't tell me. I can't retro-narrate that. I mean, I can be more fed up today than I was 5 weeks ago. And you know, as a lawyer, I know we're not great witnesses to our own experience unless we have a contemporaneous note. And this tracking behavior, for those of you who maybe don't have a cycle and you're like, oh, okay, but you know, not every woman is a quantified self-geek. This is true, but tracking your period is something that probably, you know, I imagine cave women doing this. I imagine this being the first time that we, as a species, had a concept of time, because it's pretty damn important to know when the last time was and whether I may or may not be pregnant. It's the first sign. So it's kind of building on a very ancient behavior and bringing it into a technologically enabled age, and then taking that very, very intimate experience and surfacing it as data that can inform, you know, both what your medical history is and in the future personalized healthcare, because that is really where, you know, all of healthcare is heading.
So you touched on something, how a woman is feeling from a physical and mental point of view. So how do you guys kind of interface with that? How are you impacting how women are actually feeling with your period tracker?
I mean, maybe just at its most basic, I think if we want to essentialize the female experience, the experience of living in this body with this biology, it's an experience of change in a way that is probably less true for men, right? It's an experience of cyclical change over roughly a month, over life stages. I can tell you being pregnant is completely different than not being pregnant, and pretty soon I'll be able to tell you what it's like to go into perimenopause. So these are big physical, emotional, identity changes that happen in our lives. And so I think the biggest service that we do our user community is helping them navigate these changes, both understanding where they are personally in their very unique individual journey, because it's not predictable. It's amazingly unpredictable, right? Pregnancy can be the best time or the worst time in your life. Your periods can be no big deal or something that you have to plan for because you literally can't drive a car. It's very, very individual. So it's about getting in touch with that individual experience and understanding when actually you need to go and get health care.
And it's also about agency. I mean, you said this before, Carrie. You know, when you track, when you observe what's going on, you can take that, you can make meaning out of it, you can learn about it, you can get insights about it. Clue can give you predictions about it. Then you can make choices, because change means choice usually. Or you can take action. You can choose to change your behavior. You can choose to go see your healthcare provider. When you can go from knowing to understanding to acting, that's agency. And that's incredibly good for all of our well-being.
Yeah, that's a great point. Personalized medicine is something that we're believers in, and so you guys are definitely fitting into that. How does the data that you guys are amassing kind of support the personalized wellness journey, would you say?
I have one thing to say about personalized medicine. I think it's amazing. I'm so looking forward to when we have it. Let's first personalize medicine, to your point that women weren't included in clinical trials for the last, since 30 years ago. Let's first personalize to just having a female biology. So many drugs,
good first
so
step.
many things are not. They're not tested for it. They're not built for it. They're not, evidenced for it specifically. So beyond that, though, how do you personalize? The truth is, yes, on a biological level, Carrie and my hormones level, they could be up to 5x different in actual measurement. It's just biology. But our experience can also be completely different. And I would argue that experience in and of itself is even more varied and different. Because what's going on is that we also have these lives that we're living. So I think, again, the first step that we help people with is getting agency, is being able to take control, because from there you can actually go to your healthcare provider. If something, if your birth control isn't working for you because of side effects, you can be like, this isn't working. These are the symptoms I experience. These are the side effects that I've experienced. Believe me and switch me to a different one. Give me another option. I mean, that's personalized medicine that we can do today until technology catches up.
I'm kind of curious, Audrey, because I have you, and you obviously lived in America and here. Can you just talk a little bit about some of the differences that you see around women's health from a personal level? I'm always shocked when I talk to my friends here and I tell them what our experiences are in the U.S. So, because you've been on both sides, I'm kind of just curious on the experiences that you've had.
Well, without getting too much into what the experience of going to your OB-GYN is like, they're totally different in the US versus in Germany. The ultrasound is in the clinic, in the doctor's office here, which means that you don't have to petition quite as hard to go and get that ultrasound if you think something is wrong. You don't have to wait for your appointment for the ultrasound technician to come back, get the results, pass it to your doctor, and then have another appointment with your follow-up doctor. It is much more integrated here. It's also more covered here for more people, I would argue.
And Carrie talked about having, help with you through breastfeeding, which was kind of miraculous. I'd never heard of that before.
It's so obvious, right? Postpartum support. Most women are going to have a kid, and statistically, it's going to be a little less than 2, right? This is not an unexpected health event that you're going to have pregnancy and birth, and it's going to be followed by the tough weeks of figuring out how to nurse or not nurse, and then healing again after what is a huge physical transformation. And so, yeah, having your midwife come to your house on a regular basis postpartum to figure out, how you're doing and help you with that transition in a world where we don't have grandmothers and aunts and all of the community support that maybe, a long time ago we did have. Incredibly cost effective.
How long do you get that midwife for? I've never had kids, but I know that we don't get them in the U.S. How long do you get that midwife for after birth?
So she told me until I stop lactating, which a lot of women choose to nurse a year.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
All right, I'd love to talk about a topic that is near and dear to many women that I know, which is their biological clocks, right? And I'd love to get your perspective really on, how technology can either help manipulate or support the kind of range and timeline that women are able to, activate their fertility. Hot topic.
You're sneaking in longevity here.
I know, it is the topic. They told me to stick with the topic.
Can I take a stab? I'm not sure that technology, certainly our technology, can manipulate the biological clock. The first thing is to understand where you are, because your body is not a clock. It's not a clock month to month. It's not a clock year to year. Women go into, let's say, perimenopause. There's early perimenopause. There are women who go into it in their 30s, in their early 30s. The most important thing is to know, is this what's going on, right? Because that is hugely relevant to your family planning and whatever else you might want to be doing with your life. So I would move away a little bit from manipulate to understand, and then understand your options. Don't know if you have to add to that.
I think that was great, Carrie.
All right, so it's been a year since Roe v. Wade was overturned in the US. Does changing landscape of reproductive rights impact Clue's future, mission, the way that you guys see the world? It's a hard question. It's even hard for me to say it on stage because it's such a shocker.
It is. It's a shocker. Maybe I'll start by saying, I think at Clue, we're about 70% female. Quite a lot of us are American, relatively speaking. And a lot of us were very, very personally devastated at the overall direction that this debate has taken, and the way that, yet again, politicizing the female body seems to be the way forward in the culture wars. What does it do for us as a business? I think it just simply makes what we do more important, because the more your choices are restricted, the more important it is to be as in charge as possible of what's going on by understanding what's going on and understanding the range of options that you might have at any particular moment. And for us, we obviously talked about this a lot internally. We were very clear that to us, abortion is health care. We don't perform abortions, we don't advise on them, but it's part of the journey. It happens to a lot of people. In the US, about half of pregnancies are unplanned, and about half of those end in abortion. So that's a fact, whether you like it or not. And for those people who that affects, like at minimum, they should know what it is, know what they're going to go through or not go through, and know that their data is safe. And that's kind of where we do come in, because there was a big scare around tracking data and would this be used to prosecute women for alleged abortions. There's a lot of fear because, things like an ectopic pregnancy you treat with the same drugs that you would induce an early abortion with. And this is a life-saving treatment for someone who's, going to die if that's not treated. And so there's a lot of fear around this topic, and I think the one thing that we can do as a app and as a company that has and stores a lot of very intimate data is simply be very, very clear that we would never allow that data to be used against anybody. Because whatever your view on abortion, and I think there is a spectrum of good faith views, but whatever your view, I think it has to be just an article of faith that if women cannot self-observe in an uncensored way, and if they cannot trust that their data is going to be working for them and not against them, then there is no way that female reproductive health data can inform personalized health care or the health journey overall.
So I think we're almost out of time. I think we're going to do a few questions, but I'd love to know, looking forward, what's the next, 12 to 18 months look like for Clue?
Well, we're here we started as a companion for women throughout their reproductive health journey. And we will continue. We will continue to deliver on each and every meaningful moment, challenging time, any time that somebody feels like they are unsupported. We will leverage data kept safely, always, to empower them with the choice and with the agency that they deserve.
That was short.
I'm told not to promise specific features.
Oh, I got it.
But we've got a lot coming.
I mean, one thing that I thought was amazing was that you have translated the app into 17 languages and that you're really able to touch women around the world. So is that potentially what we're going to see, is even more of a global community?
Absolutely. So we actually have people using the app in every single country in the world, all over the world. Yes, we only have 17 languages today, but we're continuing to increase that because we believe that access to trustworthy information, and all of our information is not only written by healthcare providers, but fact-checked. Like, we want to put out quality. We want to make sure that that's available to as many people as possible and that they can all take part in observing their own experience and taking action or advocating for themselves whenever needed.
Awesome. All right, I think we're going to a question. Is that? No? Okay. Aha, wow. Technology.
We can start with the first one. And
I kind of like the first one. If Clue started as a period tracker, where do you think Clue will be 25 years down the line, considering the constant growth? So you started giving us a little insight, but zoom out, Audrey, and where are we going?
I would like to think of it as like, well, women's health will just be called health because we will have as much data as we need, as much innovation as we need, as much cool people doing interesting things to better impact that journey, that it'll just be health.
I mean, and to take that further, I would love Clue to be the go-to first place, right? We all have these supercomputers in our pockets. We should, the stuff we can do, right? We can trade stocks around the world. We can do so much stuff on our phones. We should be able to pick up the phone and not only see where we are in the cycle, understand our own personal patterns, understand how that's going to look a couple of weeks out, but if we have a particular symptom set, it should surface us, let's say, through a diagnostic support tool, an issue that we might want to investigate, and then it should book us an appointment with the closest trusted healthcare provider we can find, and it should do it through our insurance in a way that we don't have to go and spend hours and hours figuring out whether it's covered or not, and then it should compare different providers, and it should send us and book an appointment and get us to the right place. There's no reason why technology can't do that.
Do I have to wait 25 years for that?
Okay. No, you don't.
Just checking. All right. I think we should go to the last question. I'm always shocked by how... Ooh, no, I've just lost it. I'm always shocked by how little... You guys keep on moving these around. I'm always shocked by how little my male friends understand about women's health, menstruation. What role does education play in Clue's future success and impact? That was a question that I actually had initially, is how much education of the market, do you need to do?
Pitch meetings, the first 70% is a sex ed class, right? But that said, I do think it's changed, and I think I think a lot of men these days are much more clued up on all of these topics. Education is, a huge part of our product. We educate individuals, we normalize the language, we help them have those conversations at the dinner table. Are we out there educating men? In all of our touch points today we are, right? I just love the fact that a lot of men have not gotten up and gone out for this session. You're cool.
All right. Do you recognize male problems with hormones as potentially interesting challenge to be solved by your product in the future?
What kinds of problems, male problems with hormones, are we specifically asking about?
Well, I just think that it's a combination of factors. Fertility is, right. So, are you in your maybe education or your messaging talking about that as well?
Absolutely. Let's not do sex ed here, but it takes a sperm and an egg, as well as the right cervical fluid to conceive, let's say. And when you talk to, let's say, fertility providers, they're actually observing that about 25% of the time it's on the women, 25% of the time it's on the man, and the other 50% of the time it's on the combination of the two. So yes, male hormones does have a factor in this, and educating them, getting them involved, if that's the kind of relationship that you have and the kind of baby that you want to make, is important. I actually wanted to talk about education at from another perspective as well, going back to the previous question, is that education of all sides of this ecosystem matters. Not only are we educating women and people with cycles about female biology, in this case, like infertility, and actually in many parts, many aspects of women's health, we're also educating people with male biology. Similarly, we have to educate healthcare providers. There still remains, let's say, bias or taboos in this space that lead to things like women getting pain medication 14 minutes later on average than men do when they complain about pain.
For the same condition.
For the same condition. Or that heart disease, gets diagnosed later in women than in men. That's education that actually through data, and data much like the data that we collect in Clue, we can actually expose so that the entire ecosystem, when it comes to providing health care, actually can get involved.
All right, on that note, both of you are so inspirational to many of us. I love the work that you're doing, so thank you so much.
Thank you.